My family and I moved back to Batavia, Illinois from Lahore, Pakistan in 1979. It was a totally new world for me as I had gone to school with children from all over the world, but suddenly found myself surrounded by those who looked just like me. Not only was I adjusting, but my family was as well. It had been challenging being in another country, away from our country and the people we knew, but I found myself back among those who looked like me, and I'd hope that the world would be very different. It was the first time I'd seen snow. It was the first time I experienced winter. And that winter, my father took me ice skating down at our local pond. I was scared, but he held me upright. And because of this, a local photographer started taking pictures of us. And to my surprise, we found ourselves on the front page of the next day's paper. It was very exciting because it was a beautiful spot downtown. And people went there to ice skate, to fish, to boat. A few years after this, I went down to that space, and we'd been experiencing a drought. The water level had dropped greatly, and all of a sudden, beneath that beautiful surface, you could see things that people didn't want anymore. There were washing machines, there were tires, there were bicycles, and other garbage. It was the first time in my life I realized that there are things below the surface, that what looks beautiful and lovely oftentimes contains things that are dark and unappealing, things people don't want to acknowledge. The last few years of my life has seen me confront these darknesses within myself, these shadows, as Carl Jung called them, has seen me try to face them, dig them up, and work with them. But I believe our society is in the same place and needs to do the same thing. Just as I have a shadow, something I need to work with, our society at large has a shadow as well. It is something we don't want to acknowledge or look at, simply because the work will be too great. I've lived out in Oregon for 18 years, and one of my favorite things to do is to travel to the Oregon coast, visit friends, and walk on the beach. One of the most frustrating aspects of this is the lovely beaches in Oregon are covered with garbage. What amazes and astounds me is that the amount of holidaymakers and travelers on the most popular beach in Manzanita, Oregon, and how they walk right by garbage from China, garbage from America, garbage from all over the world. It's so interesting to me to watch them playing with their families, throwing sticks for their dogs, surrounded by pollution, which they conveniently ignore. I've never been able to understand how they're able to do this, how they're able to ignore something that is obviously such a problem. I try to be compassionate and give them the benefit of the doubt, saying they're too busy, or they have other things on their mind. But the truth is, the ugly truth, is that they're so totally self-involved that they don't care about what's happening to the ocean. I'll be the first to admit that this is a general statement. I'll be the first to admit that not everyone is self-focused and self-involved. I'll be the first to admit that there are many others who see this problem and also want to work with it. But when I look at the world out there, when I look at how beautiful and varied it is, when I see how it's trying to show us its beauty and its relevance, and I feel a large part of our population is ignoring that, I feel called to shout out, pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening around you. So here I find myself in graduate school. I find myself being called to discover my story. A story that includes both the shadow and the light. I am made of both. Just as my family has both, my city has both, my country has both, this world has both. I find myself digging deep into myself to discover what my shadow looks like. And I feel the need to help others do the same, including the shadow that I see that has to do with the environment and our ignoring of it or our ignorance. How am I going to do that? I'm still trying to figure that out. And while I do, I'm going out in nature and continuing the conversation. One day, I'll figure it out. Maybe not right now, but I have faith. It's going to happen.